Hey Nandi, how are you?
I'm okay. How about you?
I'm doing well. I'm very happy to talk to you today. So thank you for joining me.
Excited to share.
Yes. So if you can first start off with your name, your role, and your path to education, please.
Yes, I am Nandi Edouard. I am the lead school founder and chief executive officer of the Simple View Academy, proposed to open in Cobb County in 2025.
Nice.
Yeah.
And how did you get to where you are now, about to launch a network of schools or a school in 2025?
Yeah, great question. I feel like most people started in the classroom, taught for a few years, sixth through eighth grade ELA in Houston, Texas. Just felt like I really wasn't making the impact that I really wanted to in a school building. I had a really large impact in my classroom, but wanted to see that go beyond my classroom walls. And so I applied for a dean of students position through the charter school network that I was working for. But it seemed like everybody loved their job that year and nobody wanted to leave. So I was like, oh, either stay in the classroom for another year or do something different. And at that time, and I would say even still right now, no major responsibilities or anything's holding me back. So I said, I'm gonna pack it up, and I moved to New York City. And I became the dean of students over a high school, then moved to become the assistant principal over a middle school, all while obtaining my master's at Columbia. Got to the decision making table, and there was just a lot of inequitable decision making. And I just could not be a co conspirator to that. And I decided to leave that institution and join the Building Excellent Schools Fellowship. And now I'm a fellow where they're supporting me in building my dream school.
Nice. Um, Starting and founding a school is a very unique and special experience, as I'm sure you are coming to find. How are you thinking about what makes your school community or your school values or your school culture really special before you even open your doors to your kids?
Yeah, one of my biggest things is building a school with and for the community. So the Simple View Academy, the View stand is spelled differently. It's spelled VUE,
Mm.
which means to be seen. Because I believe that student voice and choice should be at the center of all decision making when it comes to educational institutions. And then layering that with community voice is really essential to building a school that's really going to meet the needs of the community in which we would like to serve.
Sure.
Uh, View stands for voice, Ubuntu, and empowerment. And we really walk through the world with those values at the center and at the forefront of all decision making and conversations that we engage in.
Sure. A lot of schools, businesses in general, but schools in particular, oftentimes we have these mottos, we have these values, so to speak, that we share. They're on banners, they're on our promotional flyers, they are on billboards in the school, even. And not oftentimes, sometimes, unfortunately, what happens in practice doesn't meet the aspirational vision that we have. How are you thinking about making sure that both are true?
Great question. So, this summer, we're piloting our school design through a summer program where we're modeling all of our policies, procedures, routines, staffing aligned to what we envision to do with our school. So, for instance, there's a lot of community partnerships. So, every person who's engaged in the summer pilot works or lives in the community in which we're serving,
Right.
so that we can make sure that the people who are deciding what is placed in front of our students have a stake, and live in the community and work for that community. I think while trying to pilot this program, what we're going to see is how the community engages with it, how our students engage, and then fine tune from there and figure out what really meets the needs of this community.
Right.
That's like the big thing that's coming down the pipeline in May. I
Sure.
think another thing is just listening to community choice and voice. So at this point, we've talked to over 375 stakeholders in the community to hear from them what they want, what they see for our youth, and what they see for the future.
Nice. A lot of what you're saying is making me wish that a lot of schools would routinely check back in with the folks that they serve to see just how well they're doing. Certainly, people do parent surveys and all those sorts of things. And oftentimes it is just a routine practice and not a practice that's really meant to inform the decision making or just how schools are sort of run in general. One group that I'd like to talk to you about next are your teachers, the staff, the folks who are going to be supporting your efforts in educating your students within the community. How are you thinking about their development, how you will teach them to be excellent teachers and leaders? Um, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah. So last month's I have a co-design team. Let me start off by saying that my co-design team is made up of about 11 people who
Okay.
are out here in the community, figuring out what we need to make sure that this institution thrives.
Yeah.
And so last month we were working with our educators on the team. So 3 out of the 4 educators on my team work in Cobb County schools. So they're really embedded into the community and hearing about and even practicing what they want to see for our teachers in our school. That's one thing that's really important to me is having people who are already doing the work make decisions about the work. And through last month, we talked to 100 different educators. And when I say educator, we mean broad term, not just people in the classroom, but folks who educate the community and our students in different ways as well. So our families are educators as well. So we talk to our families about what they want to see in an excellent educator. And some things that came about is that they really want community voice at the center. They want support from administration. They want resources. And a new thing that came about, which was really interesting, was a lot of teachers are asking for like a wellness coordinator for adults at school.
Yeah.
So we have social workers and school counselors for students to get them to their next step, but no one's really focused on how educators get to their next step. And so they're asking for robust programming where they have choice in their development and their growth and are supported in that choice.
Yeah. This focus on adults is interesting, right? Because I think we as educators know that it takes excellent adults, right, in front of students to support the facilitation of learning in their classrooms. And yet and often we think of professional development as mini episodes, right? This session here and that experience there. And you spoke a little bit about sort of how those discrete components are going to come together. But what are your views on professional development and how we can bridge that training to implementation gap?
Yeah, I am a person that likes to hear from folks who have been through the experience before or who have expertise in that area.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking a lot about bringing in expert people in development and growth of educators to educate our teachers and myself. So some professional development that I've been engaging in has been in person, on Zoom, through digital platforms, a lot of reading, a lot of listening to different podcasts. I think really what I'm trying to say is I like choice in my learning. And the way this endeavor has given me choice in how I want to learn and how I want to become the CEO that I envision myself being.
Hmm.
Um, I believe that folks know, what they want to learn, and there's going to have to be some guidance along the way as well to meet our vision. So I believe in like choice and some like guidance along the way so that we ultimately reach our vision of what we want to see.
Yeah. This vision, you used that word a few times here, and I can't but think about what the experience must be for you now, having experienced schooling and the work of educating students and supporting adults, right, in your previous roles. And now we're I really can't call us in a post-pandemic era, although I would argue that a lot of problems we see now were there. Previously, it was just a bit more obvious, and the problems were
Mhm.
exacerbated because of the pandemic. But now you're about to open a school in the quote unquote post-pandemic era. What's going to be different for you?
Yeah. Ooh, these are such great questions. So we are proposing a school design that is untraditional and unlike anything that I believe Atlanta has seen. We are proposing that our school is based on entrepreneurship, project-based learning, financial literacy, business development, and ultimately a village of support to support all of those things. There is no traditional school, nor a charter school or private school doing this type of work where we're infusing entrepreneurial mindset development into our school curriculum. So, there's like the regular math, science, ELA class, we are proposing that our classes be interdisciplinary so that students are learning about all of the things at once instead of in content areas.
Sure.
We are proposing that our teaching staff be a mix of entrepreneurs and certified teachers. We are also proposing that our family be involved in our programmatic things. So I say propose because we're not authorized yet, and I don't want anybody getting too excited over all the things that we're proposing. But we're proposing family university as well, so that our families can learn alongside of our students. So while our students are learning about their business development, if some of their families have businesses and they need that support as well, they can learn alongside their students. So some continuing education for like a 2-generational approach, because we believe at this point, post-pandemic, it can't just be on teaching the kids. Like, their families need to know how to support them. And I think what we saw throughout the pandemic is a lot of families crying out for help of like, how do I help my kid at home? I don't know what to do. And so instead of waiting for that to happen again, we're just going to lead with that. You're going to learn along with your students so that you can support them at home.
Yeah, and I think that is a very good example of what a community school is ought to do, right? Like you're understanding the needs of the people, parents included, families included, excuse me, and what their needs are to be able to support them as well. And so I think that's really powerful. I'm hoping that that is approved because that's much needed. My last question is about equity. So Georgia is a very large state, and schools vary from county to county, even within a county. In thinking about the school that you are about to found, think about the region where your school is located and compare that to schools in Beaufort, for example, where socioeconomic status might be a bit different. How are you making sure, what are you thinking about, excuse me, to make sure that you bridge that gap, right? The gap should not exist, just to be very clear. I think we know that, and I think that it's a hard truth for us to have to accept, but that gap is not a measure of ability, it's usually a measure of access, right? And so how are you thinking about making sure that your students are on par, they're already just as smart, just as talented, just as capable, but how are you making sure that shows up equally to their counterparts in Beaufort, for example?
Yeah. I think some of the things that we've been thinking about are majorly our class sizes and expertise of teaching staff. Training and developing a staff that can do some remediation and some acceleration of students. We're also proposing a trimester schedule so that students have a longer time in their content areas to develop those skills that they might have missed throughout their trajectory or whatever was proposed to them in their elementary school years, because we're proposing 6 through 12 model. I think I'll go right back to like community voice and making sure that we're listening and learning from the community and what they need. A gap that we have seen is with like technology. I'm sure that at this point there are a lot of people who are struggling with technology, but we are proposing a project-based learning model so that technology is not the gap. You can do interdisciplinary learning in a local context without a laptop, without a device. You could still excel and meet the Georgia state standards. I think we are also in Cobb County battling with a serious homelessness issue. I have been to different nonprofits, different meetings, learning and listening to like what families are struggling with. Is it the paying their rent? Is it finding housing? Is it transportation? We're also proposing or trying to get authorized to be a state school so that even if a student does move to a Beaufort, they still have the ability to come to the Simple View Academy instead of going local school district where you would have to live in the county in order to attend the school. So those are some things that we are battling with or talking with our community about so that this school can be as equitable as possible.
Sure. Well, Nandi, I definitely appreciate the time you've taken to spend with me today, and I'm excited for you to open Simple View Academy and the students in Cobb County. The work you're doing is exceptionally important, and I think there are, a lot of well-intentioned people have ventured out to try to start schools from the perspective around what they believe good education looks like, but the fact that you're engaging the community, talking to your constituents, making sure that nonprofits are involved, I think you're already one step ahead. So best of luck to you. And I can't wait to catch up to learn all the great things you and your students do in the future. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you taking time to talk to me.
Of course, anytime. Thank you, Nandi.